Morning, everyone. Onegaishimasu. Hello. I'm going to read our motto this morning. Let us experience universal mind that loves and protects all creation and helps all things grow and develop. To know the unification of our mind and body and be one with the universe is the ultimate purpose of our study. The four major principles to unify mind and body. Number one, we rest in the one point in the lower abdomen. Number two, we are completely relaxed. Number three, our weight is naturally underside. And number four, Ki extends infinitely in all directions. I think I'd like to say something this morning about levels of meditation, progressively. When we begin with our meditation practice, we struggle because our power of attention is very small. The actual process of meditation, when done correctly, develops our ability to pay attention. It develops our muscle of attention. So in the beginning, we're not just struggling, we're wondering, we're maybe yearning, we're longing, we're dreaming, we're hoping, we're wandering all over the thought world of our mind. Maybe a subject comes up that's important to us, but we really don't know how yet to address that in the beginning. But if we make it past the stage and we keep practicing, that means that when we lose our attention, we just come back. And always in the beginning, we have some kind of object. Now, in Ki Aikido, the object is going to be either Ki breathing, the process of breathing out and breathing in, whole body breathing, from the tips of our toes to the top of our head, and breathing out from the top of our head to the tips of our toes. Or then a Ki meditation. Ki meditation means the object is Kakudaiho, everything expanding infinitely. And then Shucho, everything contracting infinitely into our one point. Now we find those difficult to do in the beginning because it's like in both cases, it's a moving target. That's very difficult. That's very advanced actually to be able to do that. So maybe instead we just pick the one point in the lower abdomen, or we pick a word like compassion. If we pick a subject or a place, and even a subject, a word, maybe takes place in a certain part of our body, like compassion, of course. Loving kindness would be in our heart. Equality would be in our one point. Maybe we have a question about learning to listen to someone else or to ourselves, just learning to listen. That would happen in this area, in our throat, our ears. And then perception, maybe, in the tiente. So, in medium level meditation, we have an object, and the object has been defined and decided on, or it just might even arise when we sit down. Something's been bothering us about something somebody said about something. And that's something. Maybe the feeling we have about it, anger, or the feeling that we have for someone, to be with someone, desire. need. So we just bring that up and let it sit there. This is not dreaming about it, not feeding it, not telling stories about it, or not imagining people that are related to it. It's just the thing itself. We allow it just to rest there in our consciousness, in our mind space, let's say. And as we do, all the things we think we know about this will come up to us. Like a long stream of information, all these ideas come up. And they make us feel good, don't they? Because they make us think we know something about this word, anger, or this word, equality. We think we're pretty knowledgeable about all this stuff. So all these ideas we have about it come up. But instead of following them or patting ourselves on the back, we just let them come up like a cloud floating across in the sky. It comes up and goes away. Comes up and goes away. Meantime, the word just sits there. The idea sits there in us. And as it sits there, the more you are able to put your attention, to give all of your attention to this moment and this idea that's sitting here in you, it heats up really like a ball of fire. It gets hotter and hotter. I'm not saying you're seeing a ball of fire. Don't get that's just it is an image, but it's the feeling is it begins to burn a hole in you because you suddenly realize you don't know anything about it. Nothing whatsoever. Those are all ideas that you got from someone else. They're not original. So what's an original knowing? This is the kernel of meditation. When something comes up, we stay with it until we realize we don't know it at all. And then it begins to reveal itself to us. And once we understand it, once it's had its way with us, a feeling or an idea or a word, it resolves itself into us. And only at that point do we move on to the highest level of meditation, which is object-less awareness. See, whenever you have an object that you're resting in, which is fine, that's our practice. There's a subject looking at it, right? Can't have an object without a subject. So when you're advancing to objectless awareness, it can be a little intimidating to the one that thinks they're the subject. That's you. So if there's no object, then there's no longer any subject. There's just awareness. Okay, so all the meditations we do in this class, key breathing and then key meditation and then whole body or mind-body meditation. These are all middle level meditations. Now, when you're doing them, you're in the middle of them, a moment might appear where you experience objectless awareness. In key breathing, they call objectless awareness is called no breathing. Musoku, no breathing. Musoku. So it means no object, but also means no subject. So it doesn't mean there's no breathing going on. It means there's no subject and object anymore. So that's what we have a name for it in key breathing. In key meditation and in mind-body meditation, if it happens, it's just experienced as resting, awareness resting in itself. There's just awareness, and it fills the universe of emptiness. So if you have a little moment of that, don't be worried about it. Just enjoy. All right, well, if you have any questions about that, we can take them up a bit later. Let's do our meditation now. We'll start with key breathing. So I'm sure it's becoming increasingly obvious to everyone that the key to everything is awareness, paying attention, or like I like to say, noticing. When we're practicing, we're in a state of awareness. We are noticing everything that arises. We say, don't suppress it, don't express it, just address it. That means, of course, when we suppress something, it means we're afraid to let it arise and give it our attention. It threatens us in some way. And when we say don't express it, when we're expressing it, we're usually trying to explain it away to someone, or we're trying to blame someone else for our feelings instead of taking responsibility and addressing it. Addressing it means taking responsibility, understanding that everything that comes up for us only comes up because it wants to be felt. It wants to be experienced. It wants to resolve itself within us. So that's awareness. That's our practice. Whether we're on the mat or in daily life or in meditation, it's always the same. Meditation is just the easiest way to take a little break and do it directly, consciously. And by meditating more and more and more, then we get used to being this way, living in awareness. And then, of course, it goes out into everything that happens in our daily life and begins to completely change our subconscious mind. So that's our practice. Please say something about this. If you have any question, comment, please share with us.
Hello, Sensei. Good morning.
Hello, Fincher.
Good evening to those far away. I do have a whole line of questions, but I will not express them today. I'll boil it down to one of them, and that is, if you could please talk about the relationship between attention that we're practicing and connection that we're always talking about.
That is a good question. I like that. Okay. So, of course, in order to connect with another person, we have to be in attention, right? That basically means sharing your attention with another. The problem we have with this, well, let me give you an example. I once, as you know, did a 3-year solitary meditation retreat. There was nobody else involved, only me. Even the teacher was far away, and I only communicated with him via writing. So I was alone for 3 years. So that was great. I really learned to pay attention. But when I got out, I didn't know how to talk to anybody. I didn't know how to communicate with anyone. Didn't know how to connect because I had become addicted to being solitary. That, as I said, has its advantages, but look out. Like the first thing I said to my teacher was, okay, now I'm ready to join a monastery. And he just said, you're crazy. You don't get to do that. That's crazy. Don't you see? All of this has to take place while you're in connection with other people. So the key is not is non-separation. Unification is Doi Sensei calls it. So we have to use our attention to be in concert with everyone while we're addressing it. Now we do get to take little breaks. I took a 3-year break, but every morning I take a half an hour, 45 minutes, or an hour break. When we sit together, I'm taking a little break. We're all taking breaks all the time from being directly connected like you and I are right now. But as I'm answering your question, let's say, or as you're asking me the question, our attention is being shared with each other. I'm giving you all my attention. You're giving me your attention. So we're connecting. We're moving through life together, but we're still utilizing the key, which is awareness. You know, I think questions arise in our minds to get us to connect. So the way I talked about that, it's true. I mean, things arise and they do become resolved. Um, well, maybe let's say that a little differently. You know, when we have teacher and student, or let's just say friend and friend, because sometimes we don't have a teacher to ask, but we have a spouse or we have a friend that we trust that we can ask anything to. And so then we might say, to the teacher, we would say, what is the difference between this and this? Or what's the sameness? But to your friend, you might say, hey, have you ever noticed how this is this way and this is this way? What do you think about that? And then maybe you have a beer together and just talk about it for an hour. And that it brings us together one way or another. This process of awakening. I don't recommend, all the stories of the monks sitting alone in caves for their whole lifetime. I'm sure that there's great progress made there. But my teacher, I don't know what this means. I've probably told you before, but my teacher said, no, you've done that many lifetimes in the past. You don't get to do that this time. That has become a cop-out. Meaning being by myself and enjoying myself thoroughly. And sure enough, as I've lived this life, I've suddenly begun to see that true peace doesn't exist unless you're completely connected, unless you're experiencing unification. True peace doesn't exist when you're in a room by yourself. It's like Doi Sensei says, true calmness is calmness in action, not calmness sitting on the couch. Because if that's not so, then every time we engage, we lose 1 point. Every time something happens that causes us to connect, we can't handle it. And that's very common in our world. So both meditation, practicing awareness, and executing awareness, connection. That's whatever came up for me here now. I hope that helps.
Thank you, Sensei. It does.
Sure. Someone else? Please.
Hi, Sensei.
Hi, Joni.
Well, interestingly, this thing. I mean, I you know what you just said. I understand and follow. But this morning, while sitting, the Buddha said, "I am enlightened, and all other beings are enlightened with me." And this morning was I had this experience very clearly that my moments or periods of time of pure clarity were not reached everybody, reached all other beings. It wasn't just me sitting in a moment of clarity. So, I mean, I guess that's the other side of the coin, sort of. But I'm not sure if you know what, I think you must know what I mean. But I think every time a person awakens, all people it affects everybody. It's not just my practice.
Yeah.
Anyway, it reaches everybody.
Well, I mean, I think this is the unification. The unification. And when we have unification, we are connected with everyone in some very esoteric way. A very, well, I mean, I say that for the sake of others. So, in other words, that may seem very strange to some people, might feel like, well, how can you really be connected with someone when you're not physically with them or talking with them? That's usually what we mean by connection. Like you're on the mat and you touch each other, or you're speaking together when you give someone directly your attention, as the question Fincher was asking. This is what we call connection. But there's a much higher level of connection that doesn't include either of those. I still say that, it's like Aikido. The reason I like Aikido is because you're constantly being tested. You're constantly coming into contact, physical contact with other human beings. And so you're constantly being not just overtly key tested, but the presence of others is constantly testing you. And in the way we exercise and the arts, the techniques that we do, it shows up immediately if you're imagining your connection with everyone. Excuse me. So, which we do this. So it's really healthy, I think, to have a physical practice as well as a meditation practice. And I think that's really what my teacher was really trying to say to me, is that you can never arrive anywhere. Yes, I have this experience when I'm sitting that you describe, but I still feel it's important for me to be in this situation. And I think you do too, or you wouldn't be here.
Yeah, I totally understand that. And it was just, as you say, but it was just something that the more it occurs, I notice, and I found that I understand now what Buddha was talking about, I guess, is on, how it really does. For instance, Toy Sensei, he was so relaxed completely. All the time when he walked into a room, everybody just relaxed completely, But I mean, yeah, anyway, I wasn't disagreeing. I was just giving you my experience.
No, I understand. Thank you very much. And thank you, everybody. This was a nice sitting this morning. I'm hoping that this is clear. I will do a transcript of this. And it's good to have the concept of this really clear in our minds. So, because always first comes the concept, and then gradually we begin to embody that concept. We begin to experience it in our practice. But if we're not sure what we're doing, if the process conceptually is not clear in our mind, then we tend to just wander and eventually we'll lose interest. Even if it was compelling to us at one time, we will lose interest because we're just not quite getting it. This happens all the time. So that's why we have these sessions together, and once in a while I try to bring up the actual process itself and what we're doing. Okay. All right. Thank you very much. どうもありがとうございました. See you again soon.